Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Tuesday, December 7th, 2010, and I'm Darko. I usually ask new listeners to please visit my website. I know it sounds kind of redundant to those that check my videos out on a normal basis. I appreciate your patience, but I gotta plug it. Otherwise people, they usually won't visit it, besides the tags that I throw in the videos. So I appreciate you checking out my videos, to all my subscribers and that, and new listeners. I appreciate you opening your mind and stumbling or finding global government news, because I like to talk about all kinds of different stuff here. I like to put as they say, the pieces together a little bit, and I try not to go too far into conspiracies, although you'll hear me from time to time talk about them. Basically, what I like to do is just read these news articles, read the headlines. I always have all the links posted in the video's description, so you can go and verify that the article does actually exist, and what I'm saying, for the most part, is true and factual. Yeah, I read news headlines, and I just read a little bit, and then I'll give my comment on it. And what I like to do is wrap all the articles kind of together in one little tight little news segment. And so you can visit my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. You can learn a little bit more about who I am and what I'm doing, what my goal here is. And thanks again for joining me. This is 24 Signs That All of America is Becoming Just Like Detroit, a rotting, post-industrial, post-apocalyptic wasteland. And you can go in here and you can read the nice little intro there, but I'm usually just skip down to the numbers here, to the actual stats and that. The American Dream and the Economic Collapse are really good websites. I recommend you go check them out. Have a lot of good information on there. It says the following are 24 signs that all of America is becoming a rotting post-industrial, post-apocalyptic wasteland just like Detroit. Number 1, the second most dangerous city in the United States, Camden, New Jersey, is about to lay off about half of its police force. We already covered that, didn't we? In the city of Camden, about the only industries that are truly thriving are drug dealing and prostitution. It is estimated that there are literally dozens of open-air drug markets in Camden. The city of Newark, New Jersey, laid off 13% of its police force just last week. Of 315 municipalities, the New Jersey State Policemen's unions recently surveyed, more than half indicated that they were planning to lay off police officers. Number 5, at least 1,000 people now live in the 200 miles of flood tunnels that exist under the city of Las Vegas. That's a pretty interesting stat. All over America, asphalt roads are being ground up and are being replaced with gravel because it's cheaper to maintain. The state of South Dakota has transformed over 100 miles of asphalt road into gravel over the past year, and 38 out of 83 counties in the state of Michigan have transformed at least some of their asphalt roads into gravel roads. And you might want to listen to Alan Watt, because he has a better explanation, and I don't really have time in this video because I still have a lot of more news to cover. But he goes into his little theory about how these cities, these mega cities usually, and even in the states, I guess you can say, the municipalities and the roads and all that, how these roads are not being fixed or upkept. And what he believes is that there's going to be this mass migration into cities where the calling off, the eugenics, the depopulation measures will really start to kick in. And you can kind of assume what that will be like, right? It'll usually involve some kind of pandemic. And that is why the Russian people, just recently, in an article in the past 2 weeks, the Russian government has announced the biggest displacement of people by force, by the state, in Russia since Soviet Stalin era in the 40s and that. Or they're going to move all their people to the cities and out of those rural areas where they're kind of nice, small, tight-knit communities that are healthy because they're spread apart and they're more sovereign, right? And so the goal of the elites is to get people in these big cities, and then they plan on not really maintaining much of the infrastructure and kind of letting it go. Why? Because they do plan on, and this is, Alan Watt talks about a lot of this, whether it's going to be some kind of pandemic, whether it's going to be some kind of nuke or a big terrorist attack, eventually people are going to be flocking to these cities, whether it has to do with the economic, just basically stagnation. It's not going to collapse, but it's going to be stagnant. There's going to be high unemployment, high inflation, and nothing's going to really get better. I hate to say it, guys. That's it's pretty pessimistic, but that's all the news that I'm reading points towards that direction. So. But yeah, that's what he thinks. He thinks that eventually that's why they're stopped maintaining the roads. Anyway, sorry I went too far into that. The number of Americans on food stamps has hit yet another. Oh, I have to finish this up because this was my point. Okay, so and I do have a little extra time in this video. If it plays out the way I think it's going to play out, and the way I've heard Alan Watt speak about it, and other researchers than that, and people in news. Whatever crisis or pandemic or attack it happens, eventually the goal of the elites is to have all the rural areas occupied and owned by them. The cities will just be a cesspool of government and government and financial slaves, the people, right? And so it'll be very hard to live in rural areas, and a lot of these people will be forced to go to these cities, and that's, like I said, that's when the eugenics will take place. The goal, though, is, of course, is for the eugenicists, the elites, to have their own territories, to have their fancy fountains that they'll put up and that. And so, yeah, you'll have right in the hub of the city, you're already starting to see that, like in Chicago, right in the center of the city, a very elitist type atmosphere with these humongous condos and all that. And then you go outside of the city, right outside the downtown area, and it's just sprawl. It's just ghetto. And that's how it'll be. So the number of Americans on food stamps has hit yet another new all-time record. 42.9 million Americans are now enrolled, and federal authorities fully expect that number to continue to skyrocket. The city of San Jose, California, recently laid off 49 firefighters. Number 9, over the past year, approximately 100 of New York State's parks and historic sites have had to cut services, and reduce hours. Number 10, in 2009 alone, approximately 4 million more Americans joined the ranks of the poor. Says number 11, the state of Arizona recently decided to stop paying for many types of organ transplants for people enrolled in its Medicaid program. Number 12, many of the police in Arizona that patrol communities near the border with Mexico say they are, quote, outmanned and outgunned and now live in fear of being taken out by drug cartel assassins. Number 13, gang violence in America is getting totally out of control. This is according to authorities. There are now over 1 million members of criminal gangs operating inside the country, and those gangs are responsible for up to 80% of the violent crimes committed in the U.S. each year. Says number 14, Oakland, California, says they will simply not be able to respond any longer to crimes due to budget cuts. 1 out of every 6 Americans is now enrolled in at least one anti-poverty program run by the federal government. The state of Illinois is so far behind on its bills that not even schools and essential social services are getting their money on time. 17, the sheriff's department in Ohio has been slashed from 112 to 49 deputies, and there is now just one vehicle remaining to patrol 720 square miles of the county. You got to come through and check this out. I want to make sure I get all this news in here. But one of the last things I want to throw in there, as far as, don't worry, guys. Don't let even, I know this is a good website. I'm not saying that they're trying to dissuade you or whatever, but I'm just throwing this out there. This is what I like to do, is that you can be rest assured that you're not going to have to worry about, quote, security when some people call it when the shit hits the fan, right? When it's not going to be a collapse. When the stagnation persists and people realize, right, reality sets in that there is no recovery. It's a restructuring of the economy. It's a restructuring of the society. It's a damaging of the economy ultimately, and people's purchasing power. Inflation. You're going to have real high inflation, like I said. And as far as police go, having enough police and security and troops and firefighters and all that, we will have in the U.S. foreign NATO troops inside this country, along with possibly Chinese and Russians. So just be ready for that. In Eastern European countries that are attached to states, not saying every state, but many of the states in the United States have foreign countries attached to a state, and they've been carrying out drills and exercises in each country. So just know that the state militia, state guards are training with foreign troops And that's why a lot of our troops right now are overseas, because they're training. They're training, guys. They're going house to house, busting down doors, setting up checkpoints. They're getting trained. They're getting battle hardened. And if they're going to be outside the country, then who's going to be inside the country to do all this? It's going to be the military. In an anticipated budget, more Irish to pay taxes. Ireland's cash-strapped government wants some of the country's workers to do something they haven't for years: pay income taxes. And this is what Stefan Molyneux was talking about as far as Ireland. They had a very low corporate tax rate, I believe he was talking about. I think that's what he was talking about in his last video. And it attracted a lot of business to Ireland. And he said that, basically they would be one of the first countries to go under in Europe. And he had his own theory for that. But, here we go again. Pay income tax. Now they're going to have to pay income taxes. Then they raised their corporate tax. You see this? Ireland was actually a thriving country. And then, yeah. Anyways, debt hit Irish published harshest budget in history. Ireland must endure the toughest cuts and tax hikes in history as an unavoidable price for saving the debt-burdened nation from bankruptcy, Finance Minister Brian Lenihan told lawmakers as they prepare to vote on a brutal 2011 budget. So I'm sure, they're going to start paying income taxes like all the other financial slaves here in the United States, even though it's not even really constitutional. Spain does not seek bailout package. Says Spain's economy minister, or economic minister, I guess, has brushed aside growing speculations that the debt-laden country might need an international bailout package like Greece and Ireland. And from what I heard, man, they're going to have it the worst. Theirs is going to be the biggest ever. So stand by, as I say in the Marines. Jim Rogers, Britain is totally insolvent. U.S. Speculator Jim Rogers is known for his outspoken views, but today went further than usual, suggesting Britain is, quote, totally insolvent. If you've watched or listened to any of my videos, you'll know that I talk about banks as being insolvent anyways. Most banks, if not all, are insolvent. They are fractional reserve. They are loaning out money based off the fractional reserve banking system. So they're loaning out 10 times, sometimes 100 times, sometimes 1,000 times the amount that they actually hold in reserves. That is very risky, and that's just asking for trouble. And then you throw in derivatives and all this other paper fiat crap not backed by anything. And you get what you get. So child poverty keeps rising across Britain. Says here more children are living in poverty in working households across the UK, with numbers rising to 2.1 million, a new study has revealed. Euro collapse possible amid deepening divisions over bailout. It is feasible that the euro will not survive the current sovereign debt crisis sweeping Europe, one of the Treasury's leading independent forecasters has said. Why is Greenland so rich these days? It said goodbye to the EU. So basically, this is what you get, right? Greenland left the EU, and now they have more freedom to fish, and their industry has been booming. And of course, Ireland, that's the thing. Ireland joined the EU. If Ireland would have never done that, they may not be in this crisis. That's what Stefan Molyneux was talking about. You should check out his website, freedomainradio.com. You don't have to agree with everything as far as his anarchist views or his atheist views, but the guy makes very, very solid arguments. So Feds highlight successes against investment fraud, and you can check that one out. The link will be posted. I got a minute left here. Federal Reserve's astounding report: we loan banks trillions. So they gave trillions to banks while they were saying it was a $700 billion bailout. No, it was $10 trillion, and I covered this almost a year ago, according to Bloomberg. And here we go. Bloomberg: JPMorgan sued for $6.4 billion over Madoff fraud by liquidating trustee. Next one up says Ford, BMW, Toyota took secret government money. Moving on, Goldman Sachs regularly borrowed from two different Fed emergency loan programs, topping $35 billion, yet it was never disclosed in quarterly SEC filings. Bank of America agrees to pay $137 million to settle muni bid rigging investigations. So restitution in there. Bailout recipients, look at this, recipients, total committed $607 trillion, I believe that is, and total dispersed $553 trillion, and total return $220. So there's still a lot of money that has not been paid from this bailout. China is scared of U.S. monetary policy. U.S. may pass legislation to force China to raise its yuan.